Welcome to Room for More Art, a dialogue series where we sit with architects and designers to explore spaces through the lens of art and design. This episode is powered by Decoraids, making interiors more thoughtful with their smart wall panels and ceiling solutions that are as practical as they are beautiful.
Hi, I'm Nidhish and this is Chaitra, and together we run Design Kacheri. We are a boutique architecture firm. We practice out of Bangalore, and we pride ourselves doing sustainable structures. And art is a very intrinsic form. It's a very interesting part of our projects that way. So very happy to be in a gallery and see artwork in general. So very happy to be here. See, art has always been a very intrinsic part of our life in general. Like, we are such a rich culture when it comes to art. In India, every corner, is filled with art. Every day you see things like patterns of kolam in front of your house, or we have like pookalam, where we use flowers and decorate during our festivals. So art has always like been a part of our journey. We ourselves also are into painting a little bit ourselves, so that is always, a small part of it has always been there in our lives as well. Of course, when we professionally grew up and started, our journey in architecture, it only became larger because we started associating ourselves with more artists who started, coming into our projects, and this is always like something which is like the entire creative process is something where you sit down and discuss a lot, and you understand the mind, what do you say, the thought process that goes behind art in general. So,
Art is also a form of expression, basically. So I think any creative individual will figure out, what how they want to express themselves. So of course, and the field of design is such that on a day-to-day basis, we are trying to create something and express our concepts, our ideas. So I think professionally, what happens is we feel very happy, very glad to be in this profession of design, and there is so much of exploration in terms of different mediums. So what we also feel is, as architects and designers, we are always looking at exploring different mediums also. It could be sketching, it could be painting, it could be collages, different ways of expressing the ideas. So it's kind of it's part of our everyday life. Apart from what do you say, there is always, I think, the profession of design is something which is creativity balanced with the business aspect. So, but it's always glad that even if it's few minutes that you get to delve into the creative aspect and try to do something. It's always refreshing. Definitely much deeper, because art is also something, you need to feel a connection with art. It could be a piece of art where I may connect with and you may not. So ultimately, when we are designing something, we are also designing for someone else. So it's very important that it is curated for that person, for the client, or for the brand, or for the place itself, because it needs to be, it should belong to the place. Otherwise, I don't think you're doing justice to either space or the art itself.
and art is, the life of the place. You create the space, you give it some kind of functionality, but the art is eventually like, the final touch that adds a splash of color, that gives the point of focus. It is handmade. So of course, all finishes that way, we do focus on things which are handmade a lot, but art always adds that extra special finishing touch to the place. There are a number of projects. I think there's a cafe that we've designed in Bangalore during one of our initial days, where The art was a very important part of it. The entire cafe was filled with artwork actually. Like there are small pieces of art everywhere. We created a giant mustache as a installation from our end. Something that was part of their logo also.
So this cafe was actually for a chef who came up with his own very creative and very unique menu of fusion food. So there was Mediterranean, there was Japanese, there was Caribbean
and Italian.
Yeah, yeah, Italian. So and it was not too big a place. It was around 2,000 square feet, and so it was very unique. His take on these cuisines and fusion food, etc. So we worked with an artist friend of ours, Vandana, who created, who tailor made. She came up with concepts expressing all these four cuisines and the fusion aspect that he was coming up with. There was a curved wall on which she came up with this mural, and throughout the cafe there were a lot of, like Nidhish said, there was very small frames and all that, and of course there was this big, because signature installation, the chef's mustache. So that's something we created with MDF in layering and modules and all that.
And one more thing was that before this place started, the client had another small space where they were trying to do something and start on their own, the cafe. And they had collected a lot of things, including, toys from their childhood, bike parts, whatever they could find, to make a mural, but the mural was not complete yet. It was supposed to be in a different setting, in an industrial setting, which was there, and they're like, I don't think this goes with the new place. Let's just move on. But we felt that let's reuse this in some way because you collected so much and it is so nice. So we actually put together a nice wall where. In the new place, we couldn't have a lot of trinkets that way. It would have been a little busy. So our suggestion in that was to paint the whole thing one shade of color, but to collect all these trinkets and make a mural wall out of it. So that also was an important part of that cafe.
And it so happened that they were from that particular area and born and brought up there. And so it kind of, the cafe had a very neighborhood cafe or community cafe sort of a feel. So all the trinkets that they had collected, it also had few things from their friend's place. Somebody's old keychain was there, or keys were there, old locks. There was
parts of toys.
The old telephone, the dial, things like that.
So the people also came in and started, oh, this is from my place. Started playing around with it. It was a little bit interactive in that sense. So yeah, that was a good.
I think somewhere along with our design for this particular chef's brand, all this art and mural is what made it very unique. It gave it a voice. It gave it a very strong character in expressing what he does.
Yes, it will vary based on both the the usage of the space, and also based on budgetary constraints for that matter. Residences are a lot more personal. It's directly it has to directly appeal to the person that way. Commercial projects are a lot more generalized. It has more to do with what the brand is looking to project. So it's a lot more commercial in that sense. And of course, budgetary constraints are always a part of any project. So yeah.
It could be, and it's also in terms of the scale. It may vary when it comes to commercial or public space, basically. It is also something where you may not be able to do too many pieces or anything. It could be just one very bold statement where there are a lot of people interacting, or just entering or exiting the building. So it also becomes a lot more location specific that way. And homes, residences are all very warm, very, very, very personal. The art has to connect with the person.
I think to an extent, most clients who come to architects are already a little bit, do value art than say a common man in that sense. So they have approached us because they already value art a little bit. It doesn't take a lot of effort from our end to convince them as such. It's important from say the designer's point of view to convey to the client what is the importance of having an art piece there. Instead of just suggesting that you need an art there, you should be able to convey why you need to place an art there, because that is when they understand the value of it. Of course, it's also something that is intrinsic from their end.
True. I mean,
they should value it.
Yeah, they should feel the connect with it. It so happens that it becomes very important to the design sometimes. So we such pieces we try to incorporate from the very beginning stage. When we have conceptualized the space, if we feel that there is a very specific tone, feeling that a particular wall needs to have, we already kind of express it and have some references and ideas from the beginning, so that they also start perceiving that particular space in the same manner.
And when the budget for it is included from the very beginning, it doesn't really hurt in the end. It's a problem when you budget out everything else and then leave that out, and then suddenly you add that into the picture. Sometimes, yes, people have already planned or prepared for something, and then this is like an additional thing for them. But when it is done from the very beginning, it's part of the process. They know that something is coming up there and it's already budgeted for. They know the importance of it because it's already been discussed with them. It doesn't really become a problem. It's a very important role. Because there are as an architect, my my connection to the art world is very limited. I may know a few artists, I may visit a few galleries, and that is the end of my knowledge about the number of artists who are there. An art advisor is full-time into this. He's connected to a lot more artists, and when you have the right brief, when you're very clear about what you want, an advisor will be able to connect you to the right artist who can give you the right art piece, and that makes a huge difference to the final outcome. If I am going to restrict myself to the few people I know, all the projects will start looking similar, and you may not get the right tone in the end. So an art advisor is very important to select the right pieces for the right project, or even within the same project to have different spaces having a different look and feel that way. There are a number of ways in which, art and architecture kind of has a crossover effect. Say you look at something like Anish Kapoor's Cloud Gate, for instance. It can't be called an art piece entirely. It is also something which comes under public architecture, for that matter. It gave an identity for the city. Forget about just that space, for that matter. Or even when you look at something like, Calatrava's architecture or Hedevig's architecture, it kind of crosses over into art. It's no longer just about architecture.
They are so sculptural yet so functional, and at the same time it strikes a chord. Calatrava and especially Calatrava, and you kind of it leaves an impression, experience. It could be a bridge. It could be, the seat that Hedevig created, which would spin, something like that. I mean, it's as part of in public spaces and all that. It is kind of so experiential. And specifically, there is this artist, James Turrell. I really am very inspired by his work. His work is all about light and the color of light in the space. With projections and creating, it could be just 4 walls. It's a cuboid, and inside that with the way the light enters, the natural light and the color, and how the whole space transforms. That is something which has always been very inspiring for me personally.
we do feel that as a community, we need to be a lot more engaged in public spaces. Like it shouldn't be restricted to projects that are private. And I think as a community, we also need to put in that extra effort to make our public spaces more appealing, to put it lightly.
The exposure to art, I feel in general, should be a lot more, for all age groups that way. I feel that be it the place you study, the place you play, where you work, where you commute,
Yeah, where you just walk by.
So, yeah.
We were a very colorful nation in general, but of late I feel like we do take our public spaces for granted, and being dirty is probably a part of our life, or we've started not noticing that things are dirty around us. Or even if someone does do an artwork, we don't really care for it. We don't really maintain it. And that is just, in general, all of us put together. It's like the public in general. So I think collectively we can make our public spaces better by infusing that little bit of art in our city. And that will bring in a lot more change. Like it's nice to be around good art always. It makes a difference.
More there is exposure to art, I think people start connecting, people start, expressing. So that's when that's a good way of having this kind of experience. And only then we can promote art. Like people should start relating to it a lot more and have a good exposure to it.